The alarm system screamed across the bridge of the ESS Valiant as Commander Jack Morrison rushed to his station. His crew moved with practiced efficiency, their faces tight with concern as the distress signal continued to pulse through the communication arrays. The message was breaking apart, filled with static and fear, but the words were clear enough to make Jack's blood run cold. New Terra was under attack. Lieutenant Amy Brooks worked frantically at her console, trying to clean up the signal. Her fingers moved across the holographic displays with desperate speed. "Sir, I'm counting at least 40 alien warships in orbit over the colony. They're demanding surrender. The colonists are refusing." Jack stared at the main view screen, watching the distant stars that separated them from 20,000 human souls facing destruction. His hands gripped the edge of his command chair until his knuckles turned white. For 200 years, humanity had followed the rules. They had joined the Galactic Council as junior members, accepted limitations on their military, and smiled politely while older alien races treated them like children who needed guidance. "How long until we can reach them?" Jack asked, though he already knew the answer would break his heart. Amy's voice was quiet. 3 days at maximum speed, sir. The reports say the colony has maybe 12 hours before the shields fail. The Kreslian Empire had been growing bolder for months now. Their fleets raided human colonies on the outer edges of known space, taking whatever they wanted and killing anyone who resisted. Every time humanity complained to the Galactic Council, they received the same answer. It was an internal dispute. Humanity was not a full member. The Council would handle it through proper diplomatic channels that moved slower than glaciers while human civilians died. Jack made his decision in that moment. He had been given certain codes when he took command of the Valiant. Codes that every senior officer in the human fleet received, but hoped they would never use. Codes that would change everything. "Lieutenant Brooks, send a priority transmission to Earth. Use quantum relay. Fastest possible route. Authorization code Morrison Alpha 7. Tell them it's time." Amy's eyes went wide. Every officer knew what those codes meant, even if most of them believed it was just a story to help them sleep better at night. A myth that humanity had a backup plan. "Sir, are you absolutely certain?" "Once we send this, there's no taking it back." Jack looked at her directly. His voice was calm but filled with steel. "The galaxy thinks we're weak because we've been patient. They think we have no teeth because we've chosen not to bite. They're about to learn they were wrong. Send the message." The transmission shot through space, jumping through quantum relays that connected human outposts across the stars. Within minutes, it reached Earth. Within an hour, it reached places that officially did not exist. Deep beneath the Atlantic Ocean, buried under 3 miles of water and solid rock, ancient computer systems began to wake up. Green lights flickered to life in corridors that had been dark for decades. Automated factories scattered across the solar system received activation codes, and their assembly lines started to move. On Mars, in the asteroid belt, and hidden facilities on the moons of Jupiter, humanity's true strength began to stir. And far beyond Neptune's orbit, in the cold darkness where few ships ever traveled, something vast opened its eyes. The Predator fleet had been humanity's secret since the day they first met alien races, and realized the galaxy was not as civilized as it pretended to be. While humanity built explorer ships and colony vessels that followed every council regulation, their best engineers and scientists worked on a different project. They asked a simple question: what if we have to fight? The answer had taken 200 years to build. Back on the Valiant, Amy finished sending the transmission and looked up at Jack. "Message sent, sir. Earth confirms receipt. They're asking for confirmation of the threat assessment." Jack pulled up the tactical display showing the Kreslian fleet surrounding New Terra. 47 warships against a civilian colony with minimal defenses. The Kreslians were broadcasting their demands across all frequencies, threatening to start orbital bombardment if the humans did not surrender within 6 hours. "Tell Earth the threat is real and immediate. Tell them the Kreslians have given New Terra 6 hours. Tell them we're out of time and out of patience." Jack paused, then added quietly, "Tell them the Council has failed us for the last time." The response from Earth came faster than Amy expected. New orders flooded into the Valiant systems, not just for them, but for every human ship within 100 light years. They were to proceed to New Terra at best possible speed. They were to prepare for combat operations. They were to wait for reinforcements. What reinforcements, Amy wondered. The entire human explorer fleet was maybe 300 ships, and most of those were science vessels with minimal weapons. What could they possibly send that would make a difference against a Kreslian battle fleet? She got her answer 2 hours later when her sensors started detecting strange readings at the edge of the system. Gravitational distortions. Lots of them. Something big was moving through space, and her instruments were having trouble getting a clear reading. Sir, I'm picking up multiple contacts. They just appeared at extreme range. I can't get a proper scan. It's like they're absorbing our sensor beams. Jack leaned forward in his chair, and for the first time since the crisis began, Amy saw him smile. Those are our reinforcements, Lieutenant. Set course to rendezvous with the lead elements, and Amy, get ready to see something that the galaxy has never witnessed before. As the Valiant changed course, the mysterious contacts began to resolve themselves on the sensors. Ships, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They were unlike anything in the human explorer fleet. These vessels were larger, darker, and they moved with a predatory grace that made Amy's breath catch. The Predator fleet had arrived, and they were every bit as terrifying as the legends suggested. Sleek hulls covered in armor that seemed to drink in light. No bright running lights or cheerful identification markings, just raw, efficient designs built for a single purpose. Jack watched them gather on the view screen and thought about all the times humanity had been dismissed as a minor species. All the times they had swallowed their pride and accepted limitations and condescension from races that saw them as barely civilized children. All the times they had chosen patience over violence. That era was ending. Open a channel to the fleet, Jack ordered. All ships, this is Commander Morrison aboard the Valiant. Welcome to New Terra System. Let's go save our people and teach the galaxy a lesson they won't forget. The Predator fleet acknowledged his message with cold efficiency. No dramatic speeches or boasting. Just professional confirmations that they were ready for combat. These crews had trained for this moment their entire lives. Some of them were third-generation Predator fleet personnel, raised in secret facilities, educated in tactics the Council had never imagined. They were humanity's hidden fang, and they were finally being unleashed. As the combined human fleet began its approach to New Terra, Amy ran continuous scans on the Predator ships. The more data she gathered, the more amazed she became. Their armor was beyond anything she had studied. Their weapons were completely unknown. Even their engines operated on principles she did not recognize. Sir, these ships are incredible. How long have we been building them? Jack's expression was grim. Since the day we met the Kreslians and realized the Council would never protect us. Since the day we understood that in this galaxy, the strong do what they want and the weak suffer what they must. We decided we would never be weak again. The fleet moved forward through space like a school of sharks scenting blood. Ahead of them, the Kreslian forces remained in orbit over New Terra, completely unaware that their universe was about to change forever. They thought they were facing helpless humans. They thought this would be another easy raid. They were wrong. Admiral Kyle Patterson stood in the war room buried deep beneath the city of Geneva, surrounded by holographic displays that painted the current galactic situation in shades of blue and red. The room was cold both in temperature and in atmosphere. Officers moved quietly between stations, their faces showing the strain of the past month. 4 human colonies attacked. 4 times they had appealed to the Galactic Council for help. 4 times they had been told to wait for proper diplomatic procedures. 23,000 civilians were dead while the Council debated. Colonel Lisa Grant approached with a new tactical report. She was a veteran of the Mars conflicts from decades ago, back when humanity's biggest problems were with each other. Those seemed like simpler times now. Sir, the Kreslian Empire has committed another fleet to the Outer Rim. Intelligence suggests they're planning to hit at least 3 more colonies within the next 2 weeks. Kyle studied the holographic star map, watching red icons representing Kreslian forces spread across human territory like a disease. The Kreslians were one of the oldest races in the Council, powerful and arrogant. They had decided that human colonies were easy targets, places they could raid for resources and slaves without consequences. After all, humanity was just a junior species. What could they do about it? The Kreslians were about to find out. What's the status of the Predator fleet? Kyle asked the question he had been waiting 30 years to ask. His entire career had been building toward this moment, even if he had hoped it would never come. A new officer stepped forward. Captain Ryan Cole had been transferred to Geneva just that morning from a posting so secret that it did not appear in any official records. He was young, maybe 35, but his eyes held the confidence of someone who knew exactly what humanity was capable of. Admiral, all vessels are at full combat readiness. We have 2,347 warships ready for immediate deployment. Support vessels number another 600. Total fleet strength is nearly 3,000 ships. The other officers in the room went very still. Most of them had heard rumors about the Predator fleet, but few knew the real numbers. 3,000 warships. The entire human explorer fleet was barely 300 vessels, and most of those were lightly armed science ships. Where had these warships come from? Lisa voiced the question everyone was thinking. Captain Cole, how is that possible? Our shipyards are monitored by council inspectors. We have treaties limiting our military construction. Ryan smiled, and it was not a friendly expression. The council monitors our public shipyards, Colonel. They inspect the facilities we allow them to see. But humanity has been building ships in places the council does not know exist. Deep space construction platforms beyond the edge of known space. Automated factories in the Kuiper Belt. Underground facilities on asteroids that official surveys say are just mining operations. He pulled up a new display, showing a massive vessel unlike anything in the regular fleet. It was all sharp angles and dark armor, bristling with weapons that the council had never approved. For 200 years, we have followed their rules in public while preparing for the day we would need to break them. The crews of the Predator fleet have been training in secret. Some of them are third-generation personnel. Their parents and grandparents served in the fleet, passed down knowledge and skills that the galaxy knows nothing about. Kyle had seen the designs, knew the capabilities, but hearing it laid out so clearly still sent a chill down his spine. Humanity had built a military force that could challenge the entire Galactic Council, and they had done it right under the Council's nose. It was either brilliant or insane, and Kyle was not sure which. The Kreslians currently have a battle group holding position over New Terra, Lisa reported, bringing them back to the immediate crisis. 47 warships. They're demanding unconditional surrender from the colony. Governor Paul Henderson has refused. Kyle felt a surge of pride. Paul was a good man, a civilian administrator who had never asked to be on the front lines of an interstellar conflict. But he was standing firm, trusting that Earth would not abandon him. That trust was about to be rewarded. What do we know about the Kreslian fleet composition? Kyle asked. Ryan pulled up detailed schematics. Standard Kreslian battle doctrine. Heavy battle cruisers at the center, supported by destroyers and frigates. Their ships are tough and their weapons are powerful by council standards. They rely on overlapping shields and concentrated fire. It's an effective strategy against most opponents. But not against us, Kyle said quietly. No, sir. Not against us. Ryan highlighted several points on the Kreslian formation. Our ships are faster, more heavily armored, and carry weapons the Kreslians have never encountered. We've studied their tactics for 2 centuries. We know their strengths and weaknesses better than they do. A Predator fleet battle group could take that entire Kreslian force apart in under 20 minutes. The confidence in Ryan's voice was not arrogance. It was simple fact, backed by countless simulations and war games. The Predator fleet had been designed to fight and win against superior numbers using superior technology and tactics. Kyle made his decision. He had been appointed to this position because he understood when patience ended and action began. That moment had arrived. Transmit fleet activation codes. Authorization Patterson Omega-1. Target designation New Terra System. Mission parameters. Complete liberation of the colony and destruction of all hostile forces. Rules of engagement. Any Kreslian vessel that does not immediately surrender will be considered a valid military target. The room erupted into controlled chaos as officers began transmitting orders. This was the moment they had all prepared for but never truly believed would come. Humanity was going to war. Ryan coordinated the deployment with practiced efficiency. First battle group will jump in at the system's edge and advance to engagement range. Second and third battle groups will provide support and cut off any escape routes. Estimated time to contact 4 hours and 17 minutes. Across human space, the orders rippled out through quantum communication networks. In the darkness beyond Neptune, massive vessels that had been on station for decades began to move. Their crews, who had lived their entire lives preparing for this day, went to battle stations with calm professionalism. These were not scared colonists or untrained militia. These were the finest warriors humanity had ever produced, equipped with the most advanced technology human genius could create. The Predator fleet was designed around a simple philosophy. If humanity ever had to fight, they would fight to win absolutely and completely. No half measures, no warning shots, no opportunities for the enemy to regroup and counterattack. Just overwhelming force applied with surgical precision. Kyle watched the holographic display as the fleet began its approach to New Terra. Each ship was a masterpiece of engineering, built with technologies that the Council believed were centuries beyond human capability. Stealth systems that made them nearly invisible, armor that could shrug off weapons that would destroy Council vessels, engines that could accelerate at speeds that would kill most alien species, and weapons. Oh, the weapons. Humanity had studied every conflict in galactic history, analyzed every weapon system, understood every defensive measure. Then they had built counters to all of it. Kinetic weapons that struck at relativistic speeds. Energy weapons that could cut through shields like they were not there. Missiles that thought for themselves and hunted their targets with relentless determination. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Council," an officer reported. "They're demanding to know why human ships are mobilizing in violation of the Defensive Limitations Treaty." Kyle smiled coldly. "Tell the Council that humanity is responding to an attack on our territory. Tell them we are exercising our right to self-defense. And tell them that if they have concerns, they can file a formal complaint through proper diplomatic channels." Using the Council's own bureaucratic language against them felt appropriate. How many times had humanity been told to wait for proper channels while their people died? Lisa looked worried. "Sir, when the Council sees what we have built, they will consider it an act of war. They will try to force us to dismantle the Predator fleet." "Let them try," Kyle said. His voice was hard as steel. "The age of the Council dictating terms to humanity is over. We tried to work within their system. We followed their rules. We accepted their limitations. And in return, they allowed our colonies to be attacked without consequences. That ends today." He looked around the war room at the faces of his officers. These were good people who had spent their careers in service to humanity. They deserved to know the full truth. The Predator fleet is not just about defending our colonies. It is about making sure that humanity never again has to beg for permission to protect our own people. When this is over, the galaxy will understand that we are not children to be managed. We are equals who will be treated with respect. The holographic display showed the Predator fleet approaching New Terra, dark shapes moving through space like hunting wolves. In a few hours, the Kreslians would learn what it meant to face humanity unchained. The galaxy would watch and understand that a new power had emerged. Kyle thought about all the years of preparation, all the resources poured. Commander Zelthar of the Kreslian Imperial Fleet stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human colony below with satisfaction. New Terra was a rich prize, filled with resources and technology that would bring him great honor. The humans had refused to surrender, but that only made the eventual victory sweeter. Soon he would begin the orbital bombardment, and the foolish colonists would learn what happened to those who defied the Kreslian Empire. His second officer approached with a data pad. "Commander, the inventory of human goods is complete. Once we secure the planet, we should be able to extract significant wealth. The humans have built impressive mining facilities." Zelthar clicked his mandibles in approval. The Kreslians had been raiding human colonies for weeks now, and the Galaxy Council had done nothing. Why would they? Humanity was a young species, barely worthy of notice. They had no powerful allies and no real military strength. They were prey, nothing more. "Begin final preparations for bombardment," Zelthar ordered. "Target their shield generators first, then their command centers. Leave the industrial facilities intact. We will need those." The sensor officer suddenly made a confused noise. "Commander, I am detecting unusual readings at the edge of the system. Multiple contacts. They just appeared out of nowhere." Zelthar barely looked up from his strategic displays. "Human reinforcements? They're explorer ships?" He laughed, the sound wet and clicking. "How many of their pathetic vessels dare to challenge us? 5? 10? Sir, I am counting over 300 contacts, and they are not appearing on our standard scanners. I only detect them because of their gravitational displacement. It is as if they are absorbing our sensor beams. Now Zelthar paid attention. 300 ships? The humans barely had 300 vessels in their entire explorer fleet. This made no sense. Show me. The main view screen shifted to show the edge of the new Terra system. At first there was only the black of space and distant stars. Then something changed. The human ships stopped hiding. They materialized like ghosts becoming solid, and Zelthar felt his blood run cold. These were not explorer vessels. These were warships, and they were unlike anything in the Galactic Council's databases. Sleek and angular, covered in dark armor that seemed to drink in light and sensor beams. No running lights, no identification markings, just pure predatory design. And they were massive. Even the smallest was twice the size of his battlecruisers. This is Captain Nicole Meyer of the ESS Nightfall to the Kreslian battle group. The human voice came through perfectly clear, cold, and professional. You have 60 seconds to break orbit and withdraw from this system. This is your only warning. Zelthar's shock turned to rage. A warning? From humans. Open a channel. Let me speak to this arrogant primate. The human captain's face appeared on his screen. She was young, maybe 30 in human years, with sharp eyes and an expression that held no fear whatsoever. That should have been his first warning. I am Commander Zelthar the Conqueror, victor of 43 campaigns. You face the 7th battle fleet of the Kreslian Empire. We have 47 warships. You are outnumbered and outmatched. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. Captain Meyer's expression did not change. 60 seconds, Commander. I suggest you use them wisely. The arrogance was stunning. Zelthar cut the transmission and turned to his weapons officer. All ships, battle formation, prepare to destroy these fools. Target the lead vessels. Show them what happens when prey tries to bare its teeth. The 60 seconds passed. The human ships did not retreat. They did not even slow down. Then they attacked. It was nothing like warfare as Zelthar understood it. In civilized galactic combat, fleets maneuvered for hours, exchanging long-range fire according to established tactics. Ships positioned themselves carefully, managing shield strength and weapon heat. Battles were slow, methodical affairs. The humans did not fight that way. Their ships accelerated at impossible speeds, drives pushing them forward with force that should have turned any crew into paste. They closed the distance in minutes, not hours. The Kreslian point defense systems opened fire, filling space with plasma bolts and kinetic rounds, thousands of shots that should have crippled any attacking force. The human ships did not even try to dodge. They did not need to. Their armor absorbed hits that would have destroyed Council vessels. Their shields caught weapons fire and seemed to grow stronger from it. They came forward like a dark tide, unstoppable and terrifying. All ships concentrate fire on the lead human vessel. Zelthar ordered, his voice rising. Bring it down. 20 Kreslian warships focused their weapons on a single human ship. Energy beams and missiles converged in a display of firepower that could have destroyed a small moon. The human ship flew through the barrage like it was nothing more than rain. Then the humans returned fire. Zelthar watched in horror as his ships began to die. The human weapons were simple but devastatingly effective. Kinetic projectiles accelerated to speeds that made them nearly impossible to intercept. They struck his ships with the force of small asteroids, punching through armor and shields like they were paper. Mass drivers launched chunks of metal that tore through hulls and detonated inside ships, killing crews and destroying systems. And the missiles. The human missiles were alive, thinking for themselves, predicting evasive maneuvers before they happened. His ships dodged, but the missiles adjusted. His ships used countermeasures, but the missiles ignored them. They burrowed into hulls before detonating, maximizing damage. Commander, the pride of Kresil is gone. The Victorious has lost main power. The Conqueror's will is breaking apart. His tactical officer's voice was edged with panic, something Zelthar had never heard in a Kreslian warrior. The battle was not going badly. That would have suggested they had a chance. The battle was a massacre. His 47 warships were being systematically destroyed by a force that fought with cold precision. No wasted shots. No hesitation. Just efficient, brutal violence. All ships, evasive maneuvers, return fire. We must break their formation. Zelthar was shouting now, his earlier confidence shattered like the hulls of his fleet. It made no difference. The human ships moved like they could read his thoughts. Every time his forces tried to regroup, the humans were already there, cutting off escape routes and isolating ships. They worked together with perfect coordination, like a single living organism. Zelthar watched on his tactical display as his fleet was cut to pieces. 10 minutes since the battle started. 30 of his ships were destroyed or crippled. 30 ships that had been the pride of the Kreslian Empire, reduced to burning wreckage. He tried to think, tried to find a strategy that would work, but there was no strategy against this. The humans had built ships that were simply better, faster, tougher, more heavily armed. They had weapons his shields could not stop and tactics he could not counter. "Commander, we must retreat." His second officer grabbed his arm. "We must warn the Empire." Before Zelthar could respond, his flagship shuddered. Alarms screamed across the bridge. Hull breaches on multiple decks. Life support failing. Main power offline. His beautiful warship, the vessel he had commanded for 15 years, was dying around him. The view screen flickered, showing Captain Meyer's face again. She looked exactly as calm as before, not excited by victory, not angry, just professional. "Commander Zelthar, this is your final chance to surrender. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded." Zelthar looked around his bridge. Half his crew was dead, the other half was injured or in shock. His fleet was destroyed. The battle had lasted 11 minutes from first shot to defeat. 11 minutes to break the pride of the Kreslian Empire. "What are you?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "How is this possible?" Captain Meyer's eyes were hard as diamonds. "We are what happens when you mistake patience for weakness, Commander. We are what happens when you attack those who wanted nothing but peace. We are the predators you forgot to fear." Her words hit Zelthar harder than any weapon. For 200 years, the galaxy had seen humans as weak, as prey, as a minor species barely worthy of council membership. The Kreslians had raided human colonies because they thought there would be no consequences. They had been catastrophically wrong. "We surrender," Zelthar said, the words bitter on his tongue. "We surrender to humanity." Captain Meyer nodded. "Wise choice. Stand by for boarding parties. Any resistance will be met with immediate destruction. Captain Meyer out." The transmission ended. Zelthar slumped in his command chair, surrounded by the wreckage of his fleet and his pride. In 11 minutes, everything he knew about the galaxy had changed. Humanity was not prey. They were apex predators who had been hiding their fangs. Around New Terra, the few remaining Kreslian ships that had not been destroyed were powering down their weapons and surrendering. The human warships moved between them like sharks, weapons still hot, ready to resume the slaughter if anyone tried to resist. On the colony below, Governor Paul Henderson watched the battle through the colony's sensors. When the last Kreslian ship surrendered, he allowed himself to breathe for the first time in hours. Then he sent a message to Earth, just 3 words that would echo across human space. "They came for us." The Predator fleet had revealed itself to the galaxy. Every species with sensors pointed at New Terra had watched the battle. They had seen the Galactic Council chamber had stood for 10,000 years, a monument to peace and order among the stars. Representatives from 47 different species gathered in its massive halls. Some walked on legs, others floated in specialized atmosphere containers, and a few existed as energy patterns held together by force fields. They came from every corner of known space, united by the Council's ancient purpose of maintaining civilization and preventing war. Today, the chamber was in chaos. Ambassador Dan Cooper stood in the center of the speaking floor, watching the assembled species argue and shout. He had served as Earth's representative for 30 years, always polite, always patient, always accepting the Council's decisions with diplomatic grace. For 3 decades, he had smiled while older species talked down to him. He had nodded while they explained how humanity was too young, too aggressive, too primitive to be a full Council member. That era ended at New Terra. High Chancellor Vorn rose from his seat, his three voice boxes creating a booming harmony that silenced the other representatives. The Thelonian was ancient, having served on the council for over 200 years. He had seen species rise and fall, had guided the galaxy through countless crises. He was not accustomed to being afraid. The council demands an explanation, Ambassador Cooper. The unprovoked attack on a Kreslian fleet cannot be ignored. This is an act of war that threatens the peace we have maintained for millennia. Dan had prepared for this moment his entire career. He stood calmly, his simple Earth uniform a stark contrast to the elaborate robes and decorations worn by the other ambassadors. When he spoke, his voice was clear and steady. Unprovoked, Chancellor. Dan let the word hang in the air. The Kreslian Empire has destroyed 4 human colonies in the past month. 23,000 civilians are dead. We appealed to this council for protection. We followed proper diplomatic channels. We were told it was an internal matter since humanity is not a full council member. We were told to wait while our people died. The Kreslians were engaged in legitimate salvage operations in disputed territory. Another council member interjected, a crystalline being whose voice rang like bells. The colonies were built in violation of settlement treaties. Dan pulled out a data crystal and placed it on the podium. This contains complete recordings from all 4 colonies. Video evidence of Kreslian ships bombing civilian centers. Audio of their commanders ordering the execution of surrendering colonists. Medical records of survivors. Would the council like to review the evidence? Would you like to hear the screams? Uncomfortable silence fell across the chamber. Several ambassadors looked away. The Kreslian representative, a scarred warrior named Kelmar, remained perfectly still. Chancellor Vorn cleared his throat. Regardless of prior events, humanity has violated the Weapons Limitations Treaty. The vessels deployed at New Terra exceed all approved specifications by orders of magnitude. These ships must be dismantled immediately, and humanity must submit to complete council oversight of all military capabilities. This was the moment Dan had been waiting for. He reached into his jacket and pulled out another data crystal, holding it up for all to see. This contains complete technical specifications for every weapon system, defensive measure, and tactical doctrine employed by the Predator fleet. Hull designs, engine specifications, weapons data, everything. I am sharing it with the council freely and without restriction. That caused an immediate uproar. Species began talking over each other, some demanding he stop, others demanding he continue. Chancellor Vorn leaned forward, his ancient eyes narrowing. You are surrendering your military secrets? Why would you do this? Dan smiled, and there was no warmth in it. Because I want you to understand exactly why you are going to leave humanity alone. This data will show you that human military technology is approximately 400 years ahead of the most advanced council species. Our ships are faster, more durable, and more heavily armed than anything in the known galaxy. We have 2,000 of these vessels, with production facilities capable of building more. He let that information sink in before continuing. But here is what truly matters. Humanity does not want to use these ships. For 200 years, we have sought peace. We followed your rules, accepted your limitations, tried to be good members of galactic society. We built the Predator fleet not because we wanted to conquer anyone. We built it because we needed to ensure we would never be victims. You expect us to simply accept this? Vorn's voice was sharp with anger and fear. To allow a species with such overwhelming power to operate without restriction? You do not have a choice, Chancellor. Dan's words were blunt, cutting through the diplomatic language like a knife. But let me make humanity's position completely clear. We will defend our people and our territory with whatever force is necessary. We will not allow our colonies to be attacked without response. We will not accept being treated as second-class citizens in a galaxy we have proven ourselves worthy of. But we will not wage wars of conquest. We will not enslave other species. We will be exactly what we have always been. Explorers, traders, and friends to those who treat us with respect. A holographic display activated, showing Admiral Katie Stone. She commanded the Predator Fleet's 2nd Battle Group, and her uniform was marked with decorations that spoke of decades of military service. Her appearance had been coordinated with Dan's speech, another demonstration of how thoroughly humanity had planned this moment. The Council should also be aware that Predator fleet vessels are now stationed in 14 systems across the Outer Rim, Katie said calmly. These are systems the Council has historically ignored. Too remote, too poor, too insignificant to matter. Humanity is extending our protection to the colonies in these systems, regardless of what species lives there. If anyone wishes to challenge this, they are welcome to try. The chamber erupted into chaos again. Some species saw opportunity in what Dan was offering. Protection from larger predatory races that had harassed their borders for generations. Others saw only threat. The end of their ability to prey on weaker species without consequences. The Kreslian ambassador Kelmar finally spoke. His voice was rough, damaged by combat injuries. The Empire will not tolerate this humiliation. We will assemble a coalition fleet. We will bring 1,000 ships to crush your arrogance. Dan turned to face him directly. You are welcome to try, Ambassador Kelmar, but assembling that fleet will take months. In that time, humanity will fortify defensive positions across half the galaxy. Your member species are already calculating whether they want Earth's friendship or enmity, and you know the truth, even if you will not say it out loud. If you fight us, you will lose. Katie's hologram nodded in agreement. At New Terra, we destroyed a Kreslian battle fleet in 11 minutes. 47 warships reduced to debris. That was a single Predator fleet battle group, less than 5% of our total strength. Consider those numbers carefully before you speak of war. Chancellor Vorn raised his voice boxes to maximum volume, demanding order. It took several minutes for the chamber to quiet down. When he spoke again, his tone had changed. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something Dan had never heard from a council member before. Uncertainty. What does humanity want? What are your terms? Dan had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times, but now that it was here, he found himself speaking from the heart. Humanity withdraws our petition for full council membership. We will pursue direct bilateral relationships with individual species based on mutual respect and shared interests. We propose the formation of a new organization, a galactic trade assembly, where all species, regardless of age or power, meet as equals. No more junior members, no more probationary periods, just sovereign species working together for mutual benefit. He paused, looking around at the assembled representatives. The age of the council dictating terms to younger races is over. You maintained order through rules and restrictions, through limiting species until you deemed them worthy. That system failed. It allowed the strong to prey on the weak while hiding behind diplomatic procedure. Humanity offers a different path. Peace through strength, mutual protection, genuine equality. And if species refuse, someone called out, if we choose to remain with the council? That is your right, Dan said simply. Humanity will not force anyone to join us, but we will protect our allies. We will respond to attacks on our territory, and we will not hesitate to use force against those who mistake our desire for peace as weakness. He picked up his data crystals and turned toward the exit. The information I have provided will be transmitted to all council members within the hour. Study it carefully. Understand what humanity has become, then decide whether you want us as friends or enemies. But understand this. We are done asking for permission to exist. We are done accepting limitations designed to keep us weak. The galaxy is changing and you can change with it or be left behind. Dan walked out of the council chamber, leaving behind 10,000 years of tradition and the shocked faces of species who had thought themselves the masters of the galaxy. Behind him, the real negotiations were already beginning. Species were calculating advantages, measuring risks, deciding which side of history they wanted to be on. Within hours, the first species formally requested a defense. 6 months had passed since the Battle of New Terra, and Commander Jack Morrison sat in his ready room aboard the ESS Valiant, reviewing reports from across human space. The ship had been upgraded with some of the Predator fleet's defensive systems, making it tougher and faster than before. But more importantly, the galaxy itself had changed in ways both expected and surprising. The latest intelligence reports painted a complex picture. The Kreslian Empire had formally apologized for the attacks on human colonies and paid massive reparations. The proud warrior species, humbled by their defeat, had requested a non-aggression pact with Earth. Humanity had accepted, choosing mercy over vengeance. It turned out that once you bloodied a bully's nose hard enough, they became remarkably reasonable. 14 species had signed mutual defense treaties with humanity. Another 23 had opened trade negotiations. The old Galactic Council still existed, but its power was broken. Some species clung to it, insisting that the old ways were best. Others had left entirely, seeking protection under Earth's umbrella or forming their own alliances. The galaxy was reorganizing itself, and humanity sat at the center of the change. A door chime announced a visitor. "Come in," Jack called. Lieutenant Amy Brooks entered, carrying a data pad with new orders. She had been promoted twice since New Terra, her skill and dedication recognized. "Sir, we have received a priority request from the Thalarian Collective. They are being raided by the Vortak Marauders. They are asking for Predator Fleet assistance." Jack pulled up the details on his console. The Thalarians were a peaceful species, focused on art and science. They had been one of the first to request Earth's protection after seeing what happened at New Terra. The Vortak were raiders, pirates who had terrorized the Outer Rim for centuries while the Council debated proper responses. "What is the nearest Predator Fleet group?" Jack asked. "Third battle group under Admiral Steve Harrison. They can be in the Thalarian system within 48 hours. The Vortak have 6 ships. Standard raider tactics. Hit civilian targets, take what they want, run before any organized response arrives." Jack studied the tactical data. The Vortak had operated with impunity for generations, knowing that by the time the Council authorized military action, they would be long gone. They were about to learn that humanity's response time was measured in hours, not weeks. "Send authorization to Admiral Harrison. Rules of engagement. Protect Thalarian civilians and neutralize the Vortak threat. If they surrender, we accept it and turn them over to the Thalarians for justice. If they fight, we end them quickly and completely." Amy hesitated before asking the question that clearly bothered her. "Sir, some of the crew have been wondering. Are we becoming the new Council? Are we going to be the ones who enforce order across the galaxy?" It was a fair question, one that Jack had wrestled with himself. 6 months ago, they had been explorers. Now they were protectors, judges, and executioners when necessary. The responsibility weighed heavily. "The Council failed because they tried to control everyone," Jack said carefully. "They dictated how species should develop, what weapons they could build, how they should govern themselves. Humanity is not interested in that. We are not trying to rule the galaxy. We are just making sure that what happened to our colonies never happens to anyone else who asks for our help." "But what if other species start asking us to solve all their problems?" Amy pressed. "What if they become dependent on us?" Jack nodded. It was a valid concern. "Then we help them solve their own problems. We provide protection while they build their own defenses. We share technology and training. The goal is not to create dependencies. The goal is to create genuine partnerships between equals." He stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. "The Predator Fleet exists to protect, not to conquer. As long as we remember that distinction, as long as we use our strength to help rather than dominate, we will be fine. The moment we forget, we become everything we claimed to oppose." 3 days later, the reports came back from the Thalarian system. Admiral Steve Harrison's battle group had arrived to find the Vortak in the middle of raiding a civilian station. The Predator Fleet had given them one chance to surrender. The Vortak, arrogant from centuries of successful raids, had refused. The battle lasted 17 minutes. All 6 Vortak vessels were disabled and captured. Not a single Thalarian civilian died. The raiders were turned over to the Thalarian authorities for trial. And across the Outer Rim, other pirate groups received a simple message. The age of raiding with impunity was over. Word spread quickly. Humanity protected its friends. Attacks on Earth's allies brought swift and overwhelming response. Species that had suffered for generations under raiders and aggressive neighbors suddenly found themselves safe. The cost was a defense treaty with humanity, but for most it was a price happily paid. Not everyone was pleased with the new order. Some species saw Earth's growing influence as a threat. They formed their own coalitions, built their own fleets, prepared for potential conflict. Humanity watched these developments carefully but did not interfere. If other species wanted to arm themselves and form alliances, that was their right. As long as they did not attack Earth or its allies, humanity had no quarrel with them. The real test came 8 months after New Terra, when the Zorthan Federation, a mid-sized power that had refused all association with Earth, launched an attack on one of humanity's allied species. The Zorthans had calculated that Earth was overextended, protecting too many systems with too few ships. They thought they could strike quickly and present Earth with a situation too complex to resolve militarily. They were wrong. The Predator Fleet's response was devastating and precise. Within 6 hours of the attack, 3 battle groups converged on Zorthan space. They did not target civilian centers or engage in random destruction. They surgically destroyed every military installation the Zorthans had, every shipyard, every orbital defense platform. In 2 days of focused military action, they reduced the Zorthan Federation's military capability to 0. Then they stopped. No invasion. No occupation, no demands for surrender or tribute. Just a simple message from Admiral Kyle Patterson himself. You attacked our allies. We have removed your ability to do so again. Rebuild if you wish. Trade if you wish. Live in peace if you wish. But if you threaten Earth or our friends again, the response will be final. The Zorthans, shocked at both the speed and precision of humanity's response, accepted the terms. Within a year, they were negotiating trade agreements with Earth. Having decided that cooperation was preferable to annihilation, Captain Nicole Meyer, hero of New Terra, was interviewed by a galactic news service about humanity's goals. The journalist asked what Earth wanted from the galaxy. Nicole's answer became famous across known space. We want what we have always wanted, to explore new worlds, to learn from other species, to grow and develop as a people. But we will do it on our terms now, not as junior partners begging for approval. We will be friends to those who want friendship. We will trade with those who want trade, and we will be a nightmare to those who mistake our kindness for weakness. The choice is always theirs. The Galactic Trade Assembly that Ambassador Dan Cooper had proposed became a reality. 32 species joined in the first year, meeting as equals to discuss trade, technology exchange, and mutual protection. It was not perfect. There were disputes and disagreements and occasional threats, but it was better than the old council, where junior species had no voice and predatory races operated with impunity. 10 years after the activation of the Predator fleet, Jack Morrison retired from active service. He had seen humanity transform from a species dismissed as weak into one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy. He had watched the Predator fleet go from secret weapon to respected guardian. He had witnessed the birth of a new galactic order based on strength and cooperation, rather than control and limitation. On his final day aboard the Valiant, he stood on the bridge watching a new group of human explorer ships prepare to depart. These vessels were heading into uncharted space, seeking new worlds and new species to meet. But unlike the explorers of previous generations, these crews traveled without fear. They knew that if they encountered trouble, the Predator fleet was ready to respond. Amy Brooks, now a captain herself, stood beside him. Do you think we did the right thing, sir? Revealing the Predator fleet? Changing the whole galaxy? Jack considered the question carefully. I think we did what we had to do. The old system was broken. Species were suffering while the council debated. We had the power to change things and we used it. Whether that was right or wrong, history will decide. But we are not conquerors, Amy said. We protected people. We made the galaxy safer. We tried, Jack corrected gently. We used our strength to help rather than dominate. We gave species a choice instead of dictating terms. But we also killed those who opposed us. We destroyed fleets and shattered empires. The blood is real, even if the cause was just. He looked at the young captain, seeing in her the future of humanity's role in the galaxy. The important thing is remembering why we built the Predator fleet. Not to conquer, not to rule, but to ensure that humanity and those we care about would never be victims again. As long as we